Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here, and today I went to go and see Pixar's newest film, Cars 3, the latest entry in the Cars series. In Cars 3, Lightning ends up losing a race against a flashy new rookie called Jackson Storm, and the whole world believes that he will never race again because they consider him to be too old. Luckily, it turns out that Lightning sponsors, Rusty's, have decided to sell the company so that they can give Lightning a much bigger place to train in and more appropriate people to work with to help him improve and compete against younger racers. His practices are supervised by a trainer called Cruiser Ramirez, and the two of them end up trying to work out how they can help him have any kind of advantage over Jackson Storm. When the teaser trailer for Cars 3 came out, a lot of people were thinking that it was going to be a very dark and serious entry in the franchise because of the trailer's tone. Now, while the film isn't exactly disturbing or grim, it's definitely the most mature Cars movie out of the three so far. It frames its drama in a very serious way, it has a kind of atmosphere, and everything is very dry. There's barely any laughs. A lot of it is really focused on the emotion. Now, if your child enjoyed the Cars movies because they love the silly antics and the racing, they'll get a hit or miss kind of experience, because there is a lot of racing for them to get excited about, but not much comedy. But if your child really enjoyed the Cars movies because of the storytelling or the drama, they're going to get a lot out of this one. And I think that they will like seeing their hero, Lightning McQueen, on another adventure, but I feel as if this movie is aimed more towards adults. The movie is definitely about growing older and feeling inadequate when compared to more youthful people, and I do believe that this is something that older generations will connect to more than kids. But I do feel as if that this movie hammers in its theme of ageism a bit too hard by constantly having the younger characters consistently mock and disrespect the older characters. And I don't buy Lightning McQueen as old. In terms of the Cars franchise timeline, it feels like it was just yesterday that Lightning was a rookie. So it just doesn't add up. I don't feel as if that he's as old as other characters make him out to be. This is Owen Wilson. I don't hear his voice and think, wow, he's definitely aging. No, it's Owen Wilson. He still sounds young. It doesn't add up. And the film is incredibly predictable. You probably have your own impressions of what the story might be like based on the trailer. And the thing is, you're most likely right. It's that predictable. It's like when we meet Cruz, we definitely feel as if that the film is going to show that actually she doesn't want to be a trainer, she wants to be a racer. And we're right. And there's also a scene where Lightning is looking at old videos of Doc Hudson, his old mentor, and we see Doc's old coach, Smokey, in that video, and the camera holds on him. And then you start to really get the feeling, well, yeah, he's most likely going to be in the story. And what happens? He ends up being in the story. It's that kind of predictability. We know where things are going to go. I mean, there's foreshadowing, and then there's giving us exactly what we expected. But even though I'm ragging all over this film, I really liked it, and have to say that it was the best entry in the Cars series. And that's not really saying much, because I thought the first Cars movie was just okay, and I thought the second Cars movie was downright awful. But still, it definitely impressed me for what it was. Like I said, this is definitely the most mature Cars movie to date. When it comes to any serious, emotional moment, Pixar handle the scenes quite well. They are actually in their A-game. The movie is mainly about the humanity of these characters. It's all about searching their souls. And even though the movie's narrative kind of wanders and meanders, I feel as if that definitely reflects what Lightning is going through. This part of his life where he's uncertain where things are going, and he's kind of desperate to cling on to anything at all to keep him racing. The movie also explores Lightning's relationship with his deceased mentor, Doc Hudson, who we saw in the first film, and It likes to juxtapose Doc Hudson's career with Lightning McQueen's current situation, which adds so much dramatic weight to the film. And through some clever use of unused takes recorded by Paul Newman as Doc Hudson, the movie manages to create some surprisingly affectionate and sincere flashbacks involving Lightning and Doc that fleshes out their relationship. And when Lightning pursues Smokey, Doc Hudson's chief, he ends up meeting all these other veteran racers who were friends with Doc Hudson, and it's really interesting just hanging out with these old cars and hearing stories from them. That was possibly my favourite scene in the film, just chilling out with these veteran racers and hearing them look back on nostalgia. It's really sweet. And the more we learn about Doc Hudson, the more we can better understand what Lightning is subconsciously going through in his career and in his life, because there's so many similarities between Lightning's scenario and what Doc Hudson went through later on in his career. And surprisingly, unlike the other Cars films, I actually cared about the racing in this one. Let me explain why. You see, the movie is building up to this big race where Lightning can prove himself and show the world that he's not too old to keep racing, and convince Jackson Storm that he's not as big as he thinks he is. And the film is actually really good at hyping up this big race that's going to happen. I mean, first of all, we really want to see Jackson Storm be taken down a peg, because he is such a smarmy asshole. Like, everything he does and says is so manipulative, so conniving, so malicious, so arrogant, and you just want to see him be taken down. As soon as we meet him, we hate him. And I think that's one of the driving forces of why we do look forward to this big race that's coming up. And what also helps is that the movie is constantly showering doubt on Lightning all the way through. Like, always saying that Jackson Storm has like a 95% chance he's going to win. Constantly criticizing Lightning for carrying on racing, even though he relentlessly wants to keep going. So not only did I want Karma to pretty much tear off Jackson Storm's arse, but I also really wanted Lightning to convince all these incredibly pessimistic doubters. When we finally get to the race in the finale, I was actually gripped. I was really into what was happening. I wanted to see where things were going to go. And to be honest, the movie wrapped things up quite nicely. I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, everything came together. In a kind of predictable way, but in a polished way too. To conclude, I'll admit that Cars 3 is flawed. It's predictable, it can get a bit too dry at some points, and the old people jokes are definitely overdone. But I got into it. I was invested. I was engaged in where Lightning's career would go. And it was interesting seeing him question his life. This was definitely the most human and mature entry in the Cars series, and I would have to say it's my favourite out of the three. It doesn't exactly break new ground, so don't expect anything too amazing. But considering the lackluster and mediocre efforts of Cars 1 and 2, this is definitely a step up. I've been Jambareeqi, and I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, then please consider supporting me on my Patreon. Cheerio, folks.